New Year, or should I say, Happy New Decade.
As any Brit will tell you, A-levels are an absolute bitch. And that meant I wasn't able to do one of my favourite things in the world, reading.
Now, of course, I was doing stuff to enrich my personal life and my professional development, because everyone fucking told me to. I was using Skillshare, which is a great service. But I just think that there's benefits that you get from having something physical in front of you. Like random thoughts that bounce at you as you read the words on the page and all that shit. And I've always loved to read fiction, so my plan is to make a 2020 reading list. So I turned to the New York Times bestsellers list, since every book in Waterstones has it printed on them pretty much. And surely, if a book sells so well that it reaches the top of this coveted list, surely it's worth my time reading it. So we can just pick the top 12 books and then just go from there, right? Well, not exactly. If we do a quick Google search for the list of best-selling books, all it gives us really is a Wikipedia article. So whilst it is a decent data source, it's not really what I'm looking for. So I did some more Googling to see whether I could find a list of modern bestsellers. And again, that didn't return any meaningful results. So another solution that I can do is I can go through the New York Times website and I can just choose random books that have been on their bestsellers list. But again, that's not really how I like to do things. The problem is with the New York Times website is that all of the data is scattered across different web pages. So let's take a look at that. We can see that all of the data is scattered across these weekly lists that they compile. And again, the books don't really change from week to week. Like we can see here that Where the Crawdads Sang has been at the top since December. It's not really meaningful for us to just go through the current week. Plus, we want a historic data set because this is a curated list that I want to do. Since this is a programming channel, it looks like I'm going to have to write some code. So my plan is to make a huge data set of all of the books that have ever been on the New York Times bestsellers list website. Now, this isn't what has been on the New York Times bestsellers of all time, since the website only goes back to 2013, which is annoying. But hey, once I've compiled this data set, I'm going to save it as a CSV so I can then import it into Microsoft Excel and play around with the data in there. Because hey, who doesn't love a spreadsheet? So my plan has 3 steps. Step 1 is to understand the web pages, and this consists of 2 things. Number 1 is the URL in a format. So since the items don't really change from week to week, and our data set would be huge if we did a list of every single week, 52 times 7 times 10. Too much to work with, really, for what I want to do. We're only going to take data from the website once a month. So the first thing I'm going to check is whether all of the URLs have a similar format, and we can see that they do. The NewYorkTimes.com stays the same, /books stays the same, bestsellers stays the same, and then combined print and ebook fiction stays the same. The only thing that changes is the month and the year, since I'm going to keep the date to the 1st. So this will make my life a hell of a lot easier when we eventually get to coding the solution. The second thing that I want to check in terms of understanding the web page is to see whether each of these actual elements of the web page are consistent across the page. And we can do that by taking a look at the HTML. So we can see that inside of here, all of the items are kept within this ordered list, or OL, and it has a class name of CSS12YZWG4. And if we take a look at another month, so at the moment we're on December 22nd, 2019, if we take a look at December 15th, we can see that it is exactly the same. It's an OL tag with the class name of CSS12YZWG4. This is great because since it's consistent across all of the web pages, we can just look for the ordered list and then take a look at the list elements, which are also consistent. This makes coding the solution so much easier. We can literally load up the web page using the format of the URL, look for the tag with that specific class name, and then just take every single list that has that class name as well, extracting the name of the book and the name of the authors. So the second step in my master plan is to automate collection of this data. I'm going to be using a library called Requests to deal with grabbing the HTML data, and then I'm going to be using Beautiful Soup to pass through. So I created a new PyCharm project, and we're going to start by writing out some code. So if we give this a run, let's see what happens. We're getting 404s. Okie dokie, let's stop that. Getting a bunch of 404s and then a couple of 200s, which we want 200s. 200s are good. Let's take a look. So if we go to 8 here instead of 08, it gives a 404. Okay, so my theory is correct. Basically what this is doing is it's doing an integer from 1 to 13. So it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, the website structure is 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5. But what we can do is we can just add an if statement in here. So now if we run it, we should get a bunch of 202s. 202s? 200s is what we want. Sick. Let's just print out the top 10. Let's see what happens. It's not F5 with PyCharm, it is Shift and F10. Cool, so we are getting all of the HTML that's contained inside of this ordered list. Yeah, so now if we run this, we can see that a bunch of book names are appearing, which is exactly what we want. So if we take a look at the first entry into this list, 0101, you see that Gone Girl is first. If we take a look at our PyCharm, we've got Gone Girl. Okay, so our code is working, which is what we love to see on this channel and just in general. Cool, so that has worked properly, so that's great. So we can now go into my document. We've got our reading list here. Oh shit, why haven't we got our reading list here? This line here, to be reading list is equal to the reading list dot append. And we'll see whether that changes anything. Quite a lot of data. We've got 1,260 rows apparently. So now if we open up our reading list, we can see that it has all worked properly. So I'm going to jump cut to when I've done some analysis, and then we will see what my reading list is going to end up being. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so it looks like the analysis of the data will be easier if I treat this as SQL. So what I'm doing is I am, instead of converting it to a CSV, I'm converting it to an SQL file, and then I'm going to do queries on that data once I've got it loaded up in SQL Server. Okay, so after much deliberation, here is what I found out by looking at the results. So overall, there are 728 unique books that have appeared on the New York Times bestsellers list for fiction. And of this, there are 343 unique authors in the list as well. Gone Girl is the most occurrent book on this list, who appeared 24 times over this 6-year period. The Girl on the Train has appeared at number 1 the most though. Girl on the Train had 6 appearances at number 1 over the 6-year period. There are 550 books that only appeared once on the list as well. There were 68 unique books at the number 1 position. Let's talk about the guy who's done the most, and that guy is John Grisham, picture on screen. He's the author whose books have been on the list the most. His books were on the list 42 times throughout this period. And going on from that as well, the most occurrent book of John Grisham is Grey Mountain. So that's definitely going on the list. John Grisham has also had 8 number 1 bestsellers, and 7 of them are unique as well. So in January, I'm finally going to get around to reading Gone Girl, because it's been on my list for a while. February, I'm going to read The Tattooist of Auschwitz. March, I'm going to read The Woman in Cabin 10. In April, I'm going to be reading Orphan Train. In May, I'm reading Grey Mountain by our mate John Grisham. In June, I'm reading The Zoo 2, because it's the book that was last when I ordered it by title ascending. In July, I'm reading The Nightingale. In August, I'm going to be reading The Shack. In September, I'm going to be reading Takedown. In October, I'm going to be reading Artemis, because I absolutely loved The Martian, and I haven't got around to reading it yet either. So that's kind of one that I saw on the list and I was like, yeah! In November, I'm going to be reading Where the Crawdads Sing, because that was the last book on the list, so that was December 2019. In December, I'm going to be reading Merry Christmas, Alex Cross, because it was the first book on the list that included Christmas in the title. So yeah, there we go. There's my reading list for 2020. If you like this video, you know what to do. Give me a subscribe as well. I need the attention, to be honest. All of the code and all of the files will be on my GitHub. The link is in the description. If you've got any ideas, I'm always open to them, so post them in the comments if you want to. I'll see you next week.